when should I start reaching out to influencers?
If you are looking for creators to partner with, I would talk to them now. I teach my creators to have an editorial calendar, and so they have their schedule of what's coming up, for tentpole events, which I'm sure is same in PR with like back to school and fall fashion and fall travel and Halloween, Thanksgiving. What are the things that you're going to be posting content about? So then if you do reach out to brands, you can give them even ideas on where their ad placement is going to be.
Yay, I'm so excited for this episode of the Small Business PR podcast. Now, today's guest is someone that we have been eagerly awaiting to get on the show because so many of our PR members ask me all the time, Gloria, how do I work with influencers? Or for the influencers in our community, how do I secure that paid sponsorship? So today we have the one and only Gwen Lane on our podcast. She is so many things, but she has an amazing program called Creatorize, where she's helped over 8,000 people secure paid partnerships. So welcome to the show.
Hey, Gloria. Happy to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Yay! So I have to tell you, if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me this question, which is your zone of genius, I would have a whole jar full of money. So I'm so excited for this talk, especially as we get closer to Q4, the holiday season, people trying to get their products in front of more people. Before we dive into it, I want you to give a quick intro about what you do and how you help influencers and brands.
Sure. So I have been in the digital marketing space for, I think, 18 years now. And so I started in advertising in the entertainment industry. And so I know the brand side of this business where first they were, doing traditional media, TV, billboards, radio, print advertising, and then they started moving into digital advertising on websites and displays. And then came the influencer market where it was mommy bloggers were like the first ones, and then it became YouTubers, and now there's TikTokers, podcasters, Instagrammers, and the word creator has now become this new economy where everyone can literally become a channel and have their own station or channel, as we call it, or show, and you can have advertisers, partners, affiliates, and all of those things. And so I have been there since the beginning, before Instagram, TikTok even existed on the brand side. So I've seen that evolution. And then I actually launched my own media brand, the LA Girl, while I was still working in corporate. And I was able to grow that blog and grow my Instagram following. And I started to get reached out to by brands like Disney, brands like Meta, Google, Target, Starbucks, and they basically wanted me to create content for them on Instagram and my blog to promote their products and services to my audience of millennial women in LA. And so I was able to quit my full-time job and replace my salary with just the income from brand partnerships. And then people kept asking me, how did you do that? Because all I do is I get free stuff, or they want to send me free makeup, but they don't actually want to pay me. And so I created my Seal the Brand Deal method, which is how to get paid partnerships, even if you don't have a huge following, because it's like the biggest thing that people say, oh, I don't have 1 million followers. Well, you don't need 1 million followers to do that. And so I started teaching, and I'm really passionate about helping creators, especially creators of color. Most of my students, I think 80 to 90% are creators of color. I help them get paid for their work because I believe everyone deserves to get paid for their work. And so I launched my membership, my programs, my coaching programs, and we just launched an AI tool called Creatorize to help people with content creation and pitches using the power of AI. So it's been a busy decade.
That's incredible. And, there's, like you said, there's been so many changes. Like, we have social media, we have TikTok, and now there's AI. So everything is changing so quickly. I'm so happy that you're on the show to help us give us a pulse of what's going on. Now, and I love what you said about your community being so diverse. That's one of our core values. Same thing with you. We have mostly creators of color. brand owners, we have small business, brick and mortar, wellness, coaches. So that's really something that we're so aligned on, and that's why I'm so happy that you're on the show. So let's just break it down for a second. All of the different terminologies, right? So for someone who has never really stepped into this world of thinking it was possible to be paid for your brand or to collab, even if you have 5,000 followers, what's the difference between like a paid collaboration, an influencer collab, and all the different things that you kind of talked about?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things when we say partnerships. And so in the influencer creator world, where let's say you have, like you said, 5,000 followers or a YouTube channel or a podcast, you want to think of it in terms of like a traditional entertainment. I always go back to the entertainment example because one, it's existed forever and we're all kind of familiar with that. And then also it's my background. And so if you think about, let's say, TV, and they have a station. It's like, how do the studios make money off of like Grey's Anatomy or Scandal or things like that? Well, they run ads, right? There's commercials. Usually, if you can also pay for like the premium Hulu where you don't watch ads, but you're paying Hulu itself for that membership. And so if you think about it in terms of the micro media, which is, the influencer with 5,000-10,000 followers, that's their show and you're still getting in front of those 5 to 10,000 people. But the cool thing about it is that instead of paying millions of dollars to be on Grey's Anatomy to reach moms, let's say you have a wine product, you can get in front of someone who has less followers, but actually are more engaged and more connected to that person because they follow them, they comment on their stuff, they know like the names of their kids and all the things that they're doing. It's like a reality show, right? It's like you're watching the influencers that you follow. And when you're like, oh, what is this person wearing? You're more likely to buy that product than like, oh, let's say you're watching, a show and they're like one of the characters are wearing the product. So it's the same thing. It's product placement, it's advertising. And so that's kind of how it works in terms of like TV shows versus an Instagram channel. Now, in terms of different types of partnerships, three are the ones that usually exist. One I call a collaboration where it is usually, you can it's kind of like PR where you get a product, you give it to someone and hopefully they use it, right? There's no guarantee that they use it, that they post about it, and hopefully they do. So in some cases, that's one way to work with an influencer or creator if you send them a product. The second one is, maybe they ask you for it and they say they're going to post it and then it's unpaid and they're willing to do it in terms of it's just valuable to their audience, or maybe they offer a discount code or affiliate deal. But I tend to tell my creators to stay away from that because they still have to create the content. They're still, building that audience. They're still, doing a photo shoot or a video shoot. There's editing. There's lots of hours involved. It's no longer, I'm going to take a selfie with this product and that's it. Like it's a lot more than that. The second type is called a partnership. The first one was collaboration. The partnership could be anything. It's kind of vague, and I feel like in terms of media in general, that's kind of vague. So I like to always ask the brand, what is the partnership look like? So it could not be monetary, but maybe it's something that would be beneficial to you. So for example, let's say a big brand reached out to you. They offer you free products. They're not offering you payment, but they're offering to get you in front of their audience. So that could be a big audience booster for you. And so maybe you're willing to accept an unpaid partnership, but you get in front of that audience. It becomes a mutually beneficial partnership. The third type of partnership would be a sponsorship. And this is where they would pay you a certain rate to post your content. And this could include also them posting it on their channels, them using it for ads or things like that. That goes into more of licensing. And so my goal for my clients and my students is to help them get those sponsorships, because I do believe that one, content creation is valuable. Those skills are valuable. It does lead to brand awareness, leads and sales. And I always tell them, to try and get those partnerships rather rather than unpaid collaborations and partnerships. And if you're just starting out, that might be a great place to start, to just show that you can do that, and think of it like an internship, right? Like maybe you do the first one for free, but then after that, if you show results, you're able to show that it has leads and sales, then you could then charge for that. So there's different ways to structure it, and it really depends on where you are, your audience, how engaged or how big it is, and kind of just what the brand is open to.
Now, you said so many things in there, but one thing I want to touch upon is here on the podcast, we're always talking about how you can work smarter and not harder. And I really feel like what you touched on is one of those like 10% activities that can really move the needle for 80% of your business. And I really feel like PR in that way and learning how to pitch and get that organic earned media is one of those too. And I think the reason why is because we're not feeding money into this ads machine. You're creating a win-win. Like you said, if you actually meet an influencer who likes your product, maybe they'll even try it for free, right? And then there's that longevity there of that sustained relationship. So let's tap into some examples, because my audience, I would say, is 50% product based, very small, but amazingly awesome, like female owned businesses, whether they're making soaps or a yoga mat. And then some of them are coaches. So can you talk about how someone in product, let's start with product, can start to reach out to influencers? What do they need to know when they don't have any guidance? Like how much would they like think about budgeting? How can they avoid quote unquote scam artists who really aren't going to move the needle for their business as we head into the holiday season?
Right. And so I think the best thing is to kind of see what influencers or creators would be the best fit for your brand. So that's like the first thing I talk to brands about, because they do consult with brands on how to work with creators, is one, like, is there people already tagging your brand? I feel like the best partners are your ambassadors, right? And sometimes, some product based businesses have ambassador programs, and then you pick like your most best ambassadors who create great content to be your influencer partners, where they're actually creating specific content for you. And so, are there people already buying your stuff, and do you know they're buying it? And then two, like when you look at their content, does it mesh and align with the values of your brand? And so that's the first thing I would look for. Is there already people in your environment? And then two, if there isn't, I would look at your competitors and maybe look at, let's say you are a yoga mat brand. What are the other yoga mats who are your competitors? Maybe you don't go like Manduka or super big like Lululemon, but maybe like a mid-tier brand. Are there people already tagging them? And on Instagram, you can see who tags who. So go to that medium-sized, smaller yoga mat brand and see, like, are there people, not even influencers, creators, are there people who are tagging those brands? And if there are, look at the quality of their content. Are they posting consistently? Are they showing up? Are they responding to comments? Are they engaging with their audience? And so those are the things that I would look for. And if you do find someone, then I would reach out either by DM or by email, and say, hey, I have this brand, a yoga mat brand. I'd love for you to try it out. I'd love to know what you think. And so I would go into it, if they've never heard of you or they've never tried the product, to give them the sample. One, because you're not like telling them to do it for free. You're offering them to try out a product. And two, you could be like, if you love it, I'd love to talk about partnering together, and you creating content for the brand. And then from there, there's two different ways you could do it. They could create content on their channel, or they can create content for your channel. So it's actually a win-win for you, because instead of you and your team, or if it's just you as a solopreneur creating content, sometimes like you run out of ideas or you don't want it to just be you. And you can actually hire creators now. We call it UGC content, user generated content, to create content with your product. And so they already have your product. They love it. Maybe they're using it already. So you can either hire them to create content for your channel specifically, or even to post on their channel if they do have that following and that audience already there. And so that's how I would do it if I were a small business. And then in terms of, paying for them, that's something where I would ask the influencer or the creator, like, what are your rates? And if they do have rates, which my creators do, then you can see what is in your budget and not in your budget. And if it's not in your budget, is there a way that you can make it work for them? And so that could be a higher percentage affiliate deal. Like, don't offer someone $2 to work. Like, that's illegal anywhere. And so, you're not Amazon where it's like 4%, but then you have like cookies and stuff like that. So you have to think about it like, is free product enough? And if it's not, what can you give them? Or, just pay for the content, because you can use it anywhere. And also think about it as a part of your marketing expense. Instead of paying Facebook, you can be paying another small business just like yours.
Yeah, I love what you said about the different options. It almost seems like it's really negotiable where you can
It
kind of
is.
ease into it, right? Where you can maybe not say right away, "Hey, what are your rates?" but let me send this to you. And you're saying that
Yeah.
there might be a good chance that they might post on it for free,
Yeah.
at least in the beginning.
Yeah. You could, well, as a business owner, and I've had product businesses as well, it's like, I don't want anyone to just post about it. I want them to actually love the product, because you don't want anyone advertising for you if they don't actually believe in the product, they love the product. And so I would focus on that first. It's like, who are my product ambassadors that, if I told them to sell this thing, could they effectively sell it? And if they don't even care, or it's not a priority for them, or it's not gonna be like infused into their daily life, then you don't want that person anyway. And so I feel like I would want to work with people who actually like passionately love the product.
Now, would you say that so I know it's hard to categorize, right? Let's say somebody is working with an influencer that has 5,000 followers, right? Like a micro influencer. Would you say that it's like 50% they would post about it for free? Or is it like very rare that an influencer would post about it for free, that it always leads to some kind of paid structure?
It really depends. It's like
Yeah.
asking, like, people like are different, right? Like,
Yeah.
also, we are human beings, right? And for me, like, I don't charge the same amount that I would charge like a big corporation like Disney or Target than like a mom and pop Etsy shop. Like, those are two different things. And so I charge differently on that. And so a lot of creators, they just want to work with brands that they believe in. And so, and that's why I think that that's your lowest hanging fruit. Your hot leads are the people who are already buying your stuff, because you didn't even ask them to buy it. They bought it on their own.
Hmm.
They already have the product in their house. If they, they're probably doing yoga on it, and all they have to do is turn on the camera while they're doing yoga and then create video on that. So it becomes a much more seamless experience, rather than asking someone like who doesn't even do yoga to try your yoga mat and use the yoga mat and then be filmed with your yoga mat. So it has to really make sense in terms of like product placement.
Now, I love that the barrier to entry is so low because someone can just look at their customer roster, right? And literally go on the Instagram and see who are the people who have a following. So that's
Yeah.
probably the first step, I would say. So let's say we've done that, right? We've reached out to like the 5 or 10 people who love our product, who have 5 to 10,000 followers. What do we do next to really kind of get our product or services out to more people other than just going through our customer list? What about YouTube or Twitter or Threads?
Yeah, so you could definitely reach out cold. I think that it would definitely be a hit or miss like anything. Just because, one, like, would they be a good fit, right? Two, if they're not a customer, they don't know about it yet. So that's something where you can send them a sample and see if they even like it. And three, it's like most likely they're going to ask for payment if they're not already aware of the product. And
Mm.
it's just like it is a longer sales cycle in terms of that kind of partnership, because you still have to indoctrinate the product to the person. And so that's why I would do that last if you have a lot of time. But for most of us, we don't have a lot of time. So if you can partner with, 5 to 10 creators a month, that's already a lot of people. You think about that even in terms of 5 to 10,000 followers, like people don't think that's a lot. And yes, in this day and age, like not every one of those people will see the content, but that's like another layer where you could have them, boost the post and run an ad to their audience. So 5,000 followers can see their content. There are like media and paid ad strategies behind the influencer content. And that's why I'm always like, it's a very layered, could be as complicated as possible partnership. But in terms of just starting out, I would just find those 5 to 10 people that already love your stuff.
Right. So start with your customer roster, go with the 5 to 10, and then if you have the budget for it, maybe you can talk about, throwing some ad money or money behind that to kind of really
Yeah.
give it a boost.
Yeah.
Awesome. What about, so as you were talking about this, I thought about various legalities, right? Because if someone is promoting a yoga mat for someone else, if I made a yoga mat, I would think there's some kind of competition clause. So how do I navigate that? And what are the things I should look out for when scoping out these partnerships?
Yeah. So when I've worked with brands, there's always usually a legal agreement and an exclusivity clause or, area. My sister's a lawyer and she's be like, I heard that. That wasn't the right term. Uh, usually it's like the terms of the campaign are in the agreement that you sign. If you are working with an influencer and you're paying them, like I do suggest like coming up with an agreement. I would talk to a lawyer because I'm not a lawyer, and having some sort of, it's kind of like a contractor agreement, freelancer agreement where they're giving you these deliverables. Are they giving you a license to use it? For how long, and then are they required to be exclusive? And so I've seen a lot of influencer agreements, and some people like don't want you to work with a competitive brand for a year. And I'm like, well, if I'm not going to do that, then you need to pay me more because that's a loss of income on my end. So it really depends on how long. So let's say, and that's why I really want you to work with someone who already loves your brand, or that you introduce to your brand and is willing to not work with other brands anymore. Just because then, yes, you don't want to work with someone who works with 10,000 different yoga mats, right? So it is looking at, are they more loyal with your brand or not? And I also like that too on the creator side. I'd rather have to work with less brands, but we have like longer term partnerships. And this is why a paid partnership actually is better, because you're paying for that exclusivity and that they're not just going to promote like another brand, but that is, income for people. And so you have to think about that in terms of, if you don't have a budget, I don't think you have the right to ask someone what to do or not to do, especially if another brand is willing to pay them for that content.
Yeah, that's so good. Definitely something to look out for. Are there any
Yeah.
other red flags that someone who is really new to the space that they should look out for before going into an agreement or a partnership with somebody?
Yeah, so I always look, the great thing is about this is that everything's public. And so if you're an influencer or creator, you're posting your stuff out there. And so I would always look at like, are they talking about the things that are brand safe for me, right? Like, so if let's say you have like a family friendly brand, but this creator always has like profanity or has like explicit music language and lip sync, then that might not be the best fit for you, right? And so on the other side of this, like I have some creators that come to me and they're like, Gwen, I really want to work with Disney, or I really want to work with like these PG rated G brands. And then like I go to their site and then they're lip syncing on TikTok with like a lot of explicit music. And I'm like, well, they're gonna look at your profile. If you have that in your profile, they're not going to want to partner with someone who's not brand safe for them, because they only want to partner with those who are going to make sure that their brand stays in that good light, right? And so I think if you are going to partner with creators or influencers, one, you can see their content and see if it vibes with your brand values. You're going to do some stalking Look at their posts, look what the comments look like, see if there's any controversy, which is not a bad thing, right? I think that there are brands that look for people who are outspoken on different things. If they care about, let's say your brand's all about like environmentalist climate change, like you want someone who does talk about that and cares about that. If you don't see anything about that social issue and that's really important to your brand, then to me that's not a good fit. I would rather find someone who maybe is not the best content creator but is the most passionate about that social issue, if that's like a cornerstone of my brand. Same with diversity, right? If they never talk about diversity, then that's probably not a good fit. And so I think that it's great that now everything's public because you can really see people's brand personality and see who you want to work with and who you would want to be an ambassador. They're really a spokesperson for your brand. And so choosing the right people is super important.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. We are only our values, right? Because people
Yes.
really want to buy from people. Even if you make a water bottle, we want to know what you stand for. So I think that's definitely the day and age that we live in with very discerning customers and public information. A lot of things came up when you said that. Are there any like tools? Because I know you talked about like legality, lawyer, for people who don't have the budget to maybe hire a consultant or get a lawyer, right? Are there tools out there that can help people find creators, maybe come up with a template for what that contract looks like, or any other tools that could help a business owner along that journey?
Yeah, so there's like influencer marketing platforms that you could use, but there are like costs to access those platforms. And then there's software to like track analytics and things like that. But there are costs. It's like you're paying an agency who has, gathered these influencers or have a roster of influencers. But of course, there's benefits to that where they have like the templates and the data, all of that in there. I think some of those platforms include like Aspire. I think there's one called Isaiah. I've gone on. I think if you just like find influencer marketing platforms, the cons of that is that one, you're usually paying the platform more than the influencer. So that's something that on the creator side, we don't really like as much. If you are more experienced and you have a bigger following, you don't do those because they pay you less because they're paying the agency and the platform more than usually the creator. And two, like the relationship is through the platform. And that's why I'm always about direct outreach. And I feel like it's human to human connection is always better than, with people in between. And you're paying the creator and all of that is transparent rather than you're paying the agency and the big company instead of the creator themselves. I'm a big supporter of just paying the creator themselves because I know how much like sometimes the agency charges versus how much they pay the creator, and it's like not good. And so
Yeah.
that's why I would prefer to do that. And again, it's less about um, I feel like there are formalities and there are things that you are concerned with legally, but I think most importantly, it's finding people who you connect with and relate to, and actually really love your brand. And so I feel like those you can't really get that from like a platform. It's more in like the human to human conversation. So I would always start with human to human conversation if you can. And it makes it so easy now to do that, like with DMs and voice messages and jumping on a quick call, and really figuring out like, I feel like too, as far as like red flags and if knowing if it's the right partnership, like you don't know that until you're in it. And if you're talking to that person and seeing like, oh, well, this person actually do what they're going to do. And there are, of course, horror stories and things that don't work out, but that's everything in life.
Yeah, I love how you said to avoid putting a layer in between because that's kind of what I
Yeah.
teach as well, where it's like, let's change the game. Let's not always go through like a PR rep or an agency rep. Like
Yes.
we can
Yes.
confidently pitch. So that leads me to my last question, which is, here on Small Business PR, we're all about empowering women, especially women of color, to pitch confidently and to deliver that message. And I know that that's something that you do as well, although it's pitching to influencers. So how can someone pitch confidently? Do you have a framework? Do you have any tools, any kind of tips that you can offer my audience?
Yeah, so I probably teach the same thing you do, but in terms of creators, on the side of if you want to work with brands, I always say, make sure that you're already following them on all social media platforms, engaging with their content. I can't tell you how many times, creators talk to me and be like, oh, I sent a brand my pitch and they ghosted me or nothing happened. And I was like, well, are you even following them on social media? And they're like, no. I'm like, that's step number one. There's a lot of brands now that if you are not following them, they'll check. And if you've never posted about them, that brand, they'll refuse to work with you. I know a lot of big brands do that because it's like, again, they also want to work with people who already shop at their stores or already buy their products. So if you have never talked about Disney or about Target in your content, why do you think that brand will want to partner with you? Like, that's to me is like ridiculous. And it's a tiny thing. You click follow, you do a little comment. And so for me, it's always the pre-pitch is the biggest thing. Making sure that you're following the brands on social media, you're liking and engaging in their content before you send your pitch. And I always say like, slide into their DMs and then start moving the conversation to email where you send them, your creator portfolio, which is our version of a media kit with your rates and your case studies and all of that. So having that pitch ready while you're doing those pre-pitch things. And I would do the same if I were a product brand trying to work with a creator. I would make sure I'm following them. I would engage with them on social media. Connect, make that connection. It's not hard to do that before you reach out and be like, will you promote my product? And I'd be like, who is this person? Like, they don't even follow me. They haven't even like engaged with any of my content. And now they want me to work for them for free and promote their business. So it's the same thing. I think that you need to put yourself in that person's shoes and ask yourself, would you want to work with this person or partner with this person if you've never even connected with them at all? And so the pre-pitch is what I teach, and then sending them the pitch with your materials ready.
Awesome. I love that. Any other tips about timing? Because that's one thing that we cover for gift guides. Is there like a
Mhm.
rule? Let's say if I want something to be really getting out there for Q4, oftentimes the busiest season for people, right? Like holiday season, Black Friday. When should I start reaching out to influencers?
Yeah. So I used to work for gifts.com back in the corporate world, and we started Christmas like in August. And so now is the time. And so if you are looking for creators to partner with, I would talk to them now. I teach my creators to have an editorial calendar. And so they have their schedule of what's coming up, for the tentpole events, which I'm sure is same in PR with like back to school and fall fashion and fall travel and like Halloween, Thanksgiving. It's the same thing. And it's like, what are the things that you're going to be posting content about? So then if you do reach out to brands, you can give them even ideas on, where their ad placement is going to be. And in terms of product owners, okay, let's say you have, a product business. What are the things that this person posted about last year? You can actually go to their Instagram and be like, did they do Halloween content? Did they do Christmas content? Did they have some sort of series? And I think too, when you talk to them, ask them, okay, like I have stuff coming up. I'd love to do something with you for the holidays. Do you have content already set? And for a lot of content creators, we do have, it's like a show, it's like a channel. We have our shows already lined up and what we want to do. And so does become more of a collaborative experience. And I think it's great because it's like you have then become like a content team together where you can create content together that would promote the product as well. And it goes out to more people where you can reach more people. And so I think now would be a good time. The earlier, the better. A lot of brands do this last minute and it's like the worst, where everyone is like going nuts. It's a hot mess. The deadlines are crazy and it's just a busy time, I think, in life in general, if you have family and kids. And so the earlier, the better.
Yeah, it's never too early to start honing on your pitch. And that's what I always say. Because this is, I think, knowing how to cold pitch, and I wish they taught every high schooler this, like knowing how to cold pitch and create a win-win situation with someone who doesn't know you, that's probably one of the most valuable skills anybody could have. So
Yes.
I love that that's what you're teaching. I could talk to you for hours. There's so many more. Maybe we'll have you come back for part two. But is there anything else you want our audience to know about the world of influencers, AI, how it's changing, and kind of what's going to be in the next 2 or 5 years?
Oh my gosh. I think that I've seen so many changes, but there are things that don't change. Like you said, communication, connection, your brand values, your pitch, like all of those things, I feel like as entrepreneurs, those are skills that we should continue to build and grow regardless of what it is we're promoting. Because whether that's Instagram, TikTok, what is now X, Twitter, X, Threads, like all of those things, they're always going to change. There's always going to be a new platform. What doesn't change are the fundamentals of like, okay, how do I market my business? How do I reach more people? How do I create partnerships and connections to amplify my reach? Like those will never change. And so I feel like focusing on that more than all the things that are changing right now is going to be where you can keep your sanity. Because trust me, like if I can tell you all the platforms and all the strategies and all the things, you become overwhelmed. And I think sometimes when you do that, it's because you're trying to do too many things. And I always have to tell myself, okay, I need to stop. I need to remember why I'm even doing this and then like stick to the basics of what I can do consistently. And so maybe, you're already busy for what you're planning for the holidays, but maybe your goal is, okay, I'm going to try to find 3 content creators to partner with. Whether or not it happens, I'm going to reach out. And so that could be your goal for this first launch of your partnership, and trying to see that. And if you're a creator, what are the 3 brands that I already feature in my content that I wear that people can see when I'm, doing content on social? Why don't reach out to those 3 brands and see if they're doing something for the holidays, and start to create content, whether or not it's a partnership. Because again, like other brands are going to be looking for creators creating that type of content anyway. And it might not be the brand that you're talking about. And so being open to those opportunities. So that's what I want to say about that. As far as AI, it's here. Like I know there's still so many people that don't want to use it or are scared of it or like don't understand it. For me, it's definitely a tool like social media. People were scared of social media. People were scared of the internet, right? And then here we are. We can't live without it. And so think of it as a tool. Think of it about it's like Google, right? Or Siri, Alexa is the same thing. And to me, it's like if I can find something that helps me with my workflow, with my content creation. I'm not a machine, and luckily we have machines that help us with creating ideas and doing things that may not be something that we feel like doing today. So we developed this custom built tool to kind of help entrepreneurs, creators create more content more efficiently. And it's not just ChatGPT. We trained our own version of ChatGPT to be a content creator and with my content framework. So you don't have to think about what to say to ChatGPT. I think that's like the biggest thing is like, how do I even come up with a prompt? What do I even say? And so our tool that we built is promptless, and you basically it's like a multiple choice question. So we have idea generation in there, social media captions. We even have brand partnership pitches in there. And it gives you the first draft. I never say never send the first draft. And then you want to put in your human touch and your unique brand personality in there, but it helps you get started, because I think that's the hardest part, is like getting started. But if all you have to do is push buttons and press click and go, and it gets it started for you, I feel like that helps us take action, and I'm all for that.
Yes, girl, you're on fire and riding the wave. I love it. It's all about working smarter and not harder.
Yes.
This has been such a pleasure. You're awesome. I love your energy. I love how you're a champion for female-founded women of color businesses, and I feel so aligned. So I'm so happy that you're here. How can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram and all the channels at Hey Gwen Lane. You can find out more about me at gwenlane.com and creatorize.me.